of in the national media saying that the prices of vegetables are going up very substantially.
Oh, it's wonderful, isn't it? You know, we're just going to make so much money this year. No, it's just the media having another good old go again, isn't it? They like to pick something out and make a big story of it, I suspect. I'd love to know whether they quote over a wide range of vegetable products and repeat the same thing again, or whether they just pick a few out that make the figures look very good. But the reality is the saying the main culprits are lettuce and broccoli are well featured there, and I think there's 2 or 3 other vegetables that are mentioned, but you know there's a big range of vegetables in the stores, not just those, so I wonder where their figures have come from. But you know, lettuce and broccoli, we've had 2 big cyclones come through this last autumn, and they have a big effect on crops and how they grow. We've had a lot of wet weather. I mean, we've experienced a reasonable amount of head rot through the broccoli, so there's a lot of crop hasn't got harvested. You know, you've seen on the news previously with lettuce crops and a lot of the leafy crops, the effect it's had on those. And when you're coming into the winter, you can't just quickly play catch up and replace any of that, because you've got longer growing times, and the impact of that weather has a bigger effect than what it does if they say come in the spring or the summer. You'll get a much shorter window of the effect of the veg, you know, those products being short. But you know, that's vegetable growing. I think in this country we do a pretty darn good job in the fresh industry with how consistent we are with supply, quality and pricing for most of the time throughout the year, in a country that's got quite a big range of seasonal climatic variations from between summer and winter, and your spring and your autumn, and then your geography up and down the country. So I think, you know, I've been around plenty of places. It's pretty well done here in New Zealand.
It is supply and demand, isn't it?
Yes, and it's actually good to see that the supply and demand model is still working, because you know, those high prices that you've seen in the stores, the majority of that has been passed on to the growers. So yes, the growers have got higher prices, but they've received higher prices on much lower volumes. And 9 times out of 10, when you get a situation like this, the net profit back to the grower on that area of crop growing is always less. The increased price never makes up for the drop in production.
It's interesting that the focus is not on the fact that you guys have lost a lot of money, it's on the fact that some people are paying a bit more.
Yes, and I don't know, you know, there's not many growers out there, so that wouldn't be newsworthy, would it? It's more newsworthy how it's affected the majority, but it's always interesting how they pick 1 or 2 people out and say, well, I can't afford to pay $3.99 for the head of broccoli or the $5 odd for lettuce. Well, you know, it's not compulsory to buy those things. There is always alternatives out there that people can be buying, and that's a fact of life. Often they might like to compare it with a cup of coffee. That's always a good one. You know, people are happy to spend $4 or $5 on a cup of coffee or what have you, and you know they you know, the value they perceive between that and some fresh produce. But that's always going to be the way of it. But I think a lot of times fresh produce is quite undervalued for most of it.
You won't ask what a price for a packet of cigarettes is.
No, well, a bit different. We haven't got people addicted to vegetables yet. That would be quite good, wouldn't it? Maybe we could do some price adjustments on the basis of that.
Seriously, you guys have spent a lot of money promoting 5 per day. Is this going to knock that around?
Well, it shouldn't do, because anyone that knows what's good for them, you know, the price of petrol goes up. You might think twice about doing a bit less running around or one thing or another, but your body still needs fuel. I mean, we need to eat, and one shouldn't, you know, I certainly won't be compromising my intake of fresh fruit and vegetables every day because a few items go up in price. I might decide, well, I'm going to have a bit more of this or something else, or there's always a lot of selection and range out there in fresh. And the other thing people have to remember is we're not dealing with processed products. They're not just coming out of a factory line somewhere. And like I said earlier, we do such a good job in this country of having consistency and quality and supply. One could almost be forgiven for thinking that they're just coming out of a machine somewhere, but they're not. They're growing out in real soil, in the real environment. You know, you get up on a Saturday morning and you want to go and do your weekend sport, and it's raining and it's cold and it's horrible, and you're getting a bit annoyed because it's been like that for the last 3 weekends. Well, hey, the crops aren't enjoying it either. You know, it's not a lot of fun out there for them, and it's not a lot of fun out there for the people growing them either. But we still get out there and we get a result and get that product on the shelf. And at times, you know, the quality's going to drop a bit. It's the weather. We're not magicians. We can only work with it, and we do the best we can. And I think we do a pretty good job.
And it is seasonal. I mean, lettuces this time of year are a bit of a luxury, to be quite frank.
Well, exactly. I mean, you got to get a bit of reality in the situation here and say, well, you know, how many people in the home garden through this time are enjoying an abundance of good quality of the products that they're talking about. You know, it can be a tricky time of the year to have them in the first place, and when you get the weather events we've had, I think we just about need to be magicians to do what we are doing.